Hi folks, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about disappointments on the path. Disappointments are many and varied. Obviously we will never be able to talk about all of them, but I want to talk about the bigger ones. By now everyone is familiar with Bryan Johnson and the Bryan Johnson cult. Bryan Johnson is a multimillionaire out of California, California, who has been attempting a modern take on the fountain of youth. He had his blood plasma put in him, his son's blood plasma, his 25-year-old son. I think he's like 47 or something, this Bryan guy. He takes $100 a day in supplements. He stays out of the sun between 10 a.m., 4 p.m. to keep the radiation down. He runs human growth hormone in his body. Basically, he's using all of his money to biohack. Here's a tip. When someone tells you that they are biohacking, you do best to just turn away from what they're telling you, because they're not going to be honest with you. They're not going to they're going to deceive you, whether intentionally or not. This sort of thing is our first disappointment on the path, and that is, number one, the discovery of your mortality. Very often when people make efforts to self-improve, they run into the fact that they go for a checkup at their doctor and they find that they have leukemia, or they have some bone disease, or they find that their metabolism hasn't worked right, their thyroid hasn't worked right in years. And when they go to begin OMAD, I recommend everybody go and get blood panels, because why not? Why would you want to not do a thing like that? Of course you do. You want to know where your blood sugar is, where your hormones are working at, because very often people go through their entire lives and they just think that doctors are super. So when you go to the doctor for a splinter, that they're going to check all your blood markers. It doesn't work that way. They only check for what they're looking for. So as a result, people run into problems. They discover their own mortality. Well, people like Bryan Johnson and what is now a cult. He really has a cult. He has people that come to his seminars and they're in their 30s, most of them, because they're just wise enough to get rid of their wild 20s. And before they hit 40, they want to optimize and biohack and do all of this sort of thing. There's nothing wrong with taking care of your body. There's nothing wrong with using supplements. There's, of course, nothing wrong with fasting. That's the best thing you can do in light of the world we live in, with having too much food and not enough activity. But all of these, if you are not careful, will allow you to forget that you are mortal. And if you go out of your way and you start convincing yourself, like Bryan Johnson is doing, that he's going to live forever, or that others can live forever, especially if they use all of his partners who come to these big events he has, and they offer to test your telomeres, and they offer to test your blood cells and your how much cytokine is going on in your body, and all of these sort of stuff. This is basically a shameless cash grab. And it's preying on this desire of humankind for the fountain of youth. See it for what it is, folks. This cult it's a really crazy cult. And it's capitalizing on the same fear that everybody has, and that is the fear of death. We Buddhists have what are called the 5 daily reflections. I am prone to aging, I am prone to illness, I am prone to death. Everything and everyone around me will change, and the only thing that will survive of me are my actions, aka karma. Those 5 things, if you remember them, regardless of whether you're Buddhist or not, if you remember them daily, will help you to go throughout the world and do your daily affairs with the most healthy mindset possible. If you go like Bryan Johnson and others and you convince yourself that there's a way to biohack yourself into immortality, or virtual immortality, awaiting some being frozen and unfrozen when there's a cure for whatever disease you might have one day, like these cryogenics people are trying to do. If you go through life with the proper outlook, you will not suffer. If you go through life like is being described with the Johnson cult, then you're liable to suffer greatly or not suffer greatly. Which describes you? Hopefully you're wise to the 5 daily reflections. I know that that sounds very negative. I'm prone to aging, illness, and death. Everything and everyone I've always known will change, and the only thing that will survive of me are my actions. But if you keep those in the forefront of your mind, then the fast passing of time as you age, it will stay with you, and that will temper your desire to get into new fads and weird efforts to try to put off the inevitable. So that is the first of the big disappointments. Stay away from longevity cults of all kinds. Yes, I believe in Chinese medicine. Yes, I believe in fasting. Yes, I believe in delaying gratification, which is what fasting is all about. If you try to take it beyond that, you are deceiving only yourself. You are causing only yourself suffering. Please don't be one of those that do it. Now, it's not always that simple. Sometimes you just go for a blood check, like we said, and you find out that you have a disease. That shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't stop you from the OMAD path. Very often, people with diseases are just like people who were told they would never walk again. They're just like people who were told they'll never lead a normal life, and they defied the odds. But you do that not with a spirit of optimism. You do that with a spirit of realization and being right in the moment. Imagine you are driving like I'm sitting in a car right now, and your line of sight is right behind me there for you guys and right in front of me for me, and it's right here. That is the only thing that is real. As you try to look up, you have to adjust your head. You can't see as clearly. And as you look down, you have to crouch. You can't see as clearly. So imagine everything in your life below as less clear and everything above less clear. You can't see as well up or down, but you can see right in front of you. Line of sight. Now imagine living in a way where that line of sight is always what you're going for. You're looking in the line of sight and you're saying to yourself, this is what you can see. Live in a way where what you do, you can obtain and you can harvest and you can manifest. All of the things that you can do, you can do. All of the things you can't yet do, you can't yet do. All of the things that you miss the opportunity for, you can never go back to. What can you do today to avoid disappointment? You can eat what you have without going out and trying to find the perfect diet, without trying to find the perfect supplements, without trying to find the perfect motivational system, which is disappointment number 2. Not having the proper supportive environment. A lot can be said about this one, but here is the one thing that you should keep in mind regarding your environment. Just like your body, just like your own mortality, you might find that your environment is one of those things that is impossible to obtain. Very often, people who are overweight will be prone to enablers. Every person, like on My 600-Pound Life and all of these shows that feature the morbidly obese being saved by some humanitarian doctor, what you will find is they're surrounded by enablers. They're surrounded by people who are just going to cook them whatever they want, even if they're housebound. Even if they can't work, they'll just say, well, I didn't want him to be hungry, so I just made him all this eggs and bacon, and I gave him all these candy bars, and because, that's what I would want. This is the nature of the world, folks. Every person you see who's in jail, they are surrounded by a network of people who are enabling them to do this. And it is the lack of discernment between you and others, between self and other, that allows this sort of thing to exist in the first place. I did a video years ago called Be a More Selfish Eater. You don't eat for others, and others don't eat for you. You shouldn't need a supportive network because you have online and this channel and other channels that do the same wonderful work. That's your support network. It doesn't matter if they're not in your same apartment or house or condo, wherever you live. Instead, you have tons of support, whether you think you do or not. But if you're allowing this to be a disappointment on the path, the fact that nobody at home is going to eat when you eat or eat what you eat, or you do all of these sorts of things, you're setting yourself up for failure by simple lack of wisdom, lack of foresight. People are not going to do OMAD. They're going to surround themselves by all sorts of disappointing things. They're going to pig out. They're going to go drinking. The younger you are, the more of a problem that sometimes is. You're going to be in a household where somebody's laying on the couch with their Cheetos and cupcakes right out in front of you. Doesn't matter, because that's not for you. It's no different than anyone else's religion or philosophy on life. It's not yours. You don't need to worry about it. Not a bit. So that is the big disappointment number 2. And it is something that is a very big disappointment to so many, because I get so much contact from people saying, well, where's my support system? What I'm actually trying to do right now is revive the MyFitnessPal OMAD Forums. So if you want, I'll leave a link to it and you can go and get some more help with people. Hopefully I can get it going again. It's been a while and we haven't used it. But there's lots of resources online. Don't ever let something like that stop you. Number 3 disappointment is the disappointment on the path of the perfect diet. Now, this is similar to the first point, but it's not quite the same. We talked about mortalities. The discovery of mortality is a big hindering block in point 1. This is finding the perfect diet. I did a video years ago on chasing rabbits, and why so many people fail on OMAD is because they're looking for the perfect diet. And this is one of the worst things that can be done when people go out of their way to try to discover the perfect diet. And they do this by saying, well, I have to find the right foods first. I have always said on this channel, folks, you do not do that. You start and you eat what is around you. You eat what it is you normally eat. You don't go to try to create a perfect garden. You don't go to create a perfect environment. You stay right with what you have, and you eat, and you be done with it. If, for instance, you try to go on some carnivore diet, you're going to have the added disappointment of adjusting, which will be hard enough. The plateau, the longer plateaus are the biggest disappointments on the path, but they're normal. That's a thing that I'm not even including in this list because they're normal. You don't go and say, well, it's going to be tough to adjust. When I burn off all my water weight, I have to burn off the fat storage. Yes, that's a normal part of the process, and it can last a good month to get past a plateau. I've had people take longer than that. I've had people take 5 weeks to break a certain level on the scale. That's the normal way things are. So if you go in and you try to change your diet into the perfect diet, now you have the added stress of trying to optimize the perfect diet. So you're having to say, how am I adjusting? You go vegan, and then you realize you get hemorrhoids, or you get sick, or you don't have any energy, and it's not just the normal stress of adjusting to fasting. Now you've got to find the right diet. So you jump off that, and then you go on another diet. You're doing what I referred to years ago in another video about chasing rabbits. Now you're trying to do the panacea of weight loss again. Is this going to be perfect for me? Is this going to be perfect? That's not how you self-discover. You self-discover by looking at where you are right now, and you say, what can I do today? What can I do right now? I can eat what's in front of me and be done with it. Do you see now why it's impossible to get any simpler than that? And the reason I set up the plan like this is precisely to avoid dietary perfection, the false panacea of dietary perfection. To this day, folks, as starchivore as I am, I still can't go completely vegan. I can't get rid of it. I'll get sick if I do it for too long. I'll run into trouble despite supplementation. I've quit playing that game many moons ago, and so should you. Stop trying to find the perfect diet. Your diet will default to what you normally will always eat anyway. You'll get rid of the junk sugars. You'll start eating real foods, which is part of the original OMAD plan. Eat whatever you can make a meal out of. And when you do that, you will find that you crest. You get above all of the hardcore levels of adjustment quicker, and you won't face as many disappointments. So those are the big ones, folks. What other ones would you like to put in the comments, maybe? Disappointments that you have faced. You might include changing a new job, but those are more normal. Stress of moving, the stress of having family come over, those are normal stresses. I'm not putting those on the list. You can list them if you want. You can share with our community what has been a disappointment to you. But the thing about these disappointments is they're only disappointments if you call them that, if you don't recognize them for what they are. They're just struggles on the path. Nothing you can't beat. I hope this has been helpful. Have a good day, folks.